Hi everyone, welcome to my channel The Literary Bus. If you are new to this channel, please ensure that you like, share and subscribe. In the previous video, we have uploaded part 1, that is the plan of the novel From Russia with Love by Fleming. Now we are moving towards the part 2 of this novel as promised, that is the execution. Let's start. So now the scene shifts to London and we are introduced to a hero, that is James Bond. So James Bond, he wakes up in his flat on King's Road and he started to begin his morning routine. And like doing some exercises and taking hot and then cold shower. And what's the favorite breakfast of James Bond? It's like consists of 2 cups of black coffee, a boiled brown egg and 2 slices of whole wheat toast with butter, strawberry jam, marmalade and honey. Mr. Bond is now summoned by M. Now who is this M? M is the chief of MI6 and MI6 is British Secret Service agency. Now if you can check my channel, I have uploaded one of the shorts where I have talked about the new chief of MI6, because MI6 isn't a fictional agency but it really exists. Yes, let's come back to our plot. So this M asks James Bond about his relationship with this lady called Miss Tiffany Case. Now he debunks all his relationship with Tiffany Case, and we all know that how James Bond is surrounded by women, right? So now the next thing is that now comes a man and his name is Darko Kerim. Now who is Darko Kerim? Darko Kerim is the head of Station T, Turkey, of the British Secret Service agency only, and he is known as the Secret Service best man. Now this Tatiana Romanova that we have already discussed in part 1 and what assignment she has got, we all know about that. So yes, so Tatiana Romanova contacted this Darko Kerim and she told him that she had been transferred to Istanbul to work as a cipher officer. She even told him that Bond's description reminded her of her favorite literary hero Lermontov. She had fallen in love with Bond based on the photograph kept in his file. Now she also told Kerim that if Bond were to come to Istanbul to retrieve her, she would bring along a Spectre. So what was Spectre? So Spectre was a new Russian cipher machine that the English wanted to recover so that they can decipher secret Soviet communication. Now these two things, Spectre and Tatiana Romanova, will be able to trap James Bond. Let's see what will happen next. Now James Bond travels to Istanbul via a BEA flight. So he was traveling on Friday and on that day it was 13th. In the novel you will find that there is a vivid description in detail about how this particular day is unlucky. But never mind, James Bond reached Istanbul and he met Darko Kerim there. And you will find that there is another great description of the hotel, that how it was not good at all. So whenever you read such kind of novels, you always see that there is some kind of disgust associated with oriental places. You know what I'm talking about, Edward Said's Orientalism. So let's come back to our novel once again. So later on, Darko Kerim informed James Bond that there was an attack last night on him and he escaped that attack, and it was planned by Russians and they wanted to liquidate the head of the British Secret Service position in Turkey, but they ignored that incident because they really want that Spectre machine. Then there are minute details that Kerim and Bond went for lunch and Bond observed from somewhere Tatiana Romanova, and then Kerim and Bond went to a gypsy camp and all those little information. So now Bond returns to his hotel room and to his surprise he found Tatiana Romanova on his bed. And what she is doing there, she is just doing her assignment that is assigned to her by Smersh. And she explains that she will steal the Spectre the next day and then they will depart together on the Orient Express. You know, one thing was happening that Bond didn't know, and I don't know Tatiana know this or not, but the Smersh photographers were behind the bedroom mirror and they were filming everything. And why they were doing so, I'll tell you in the end of the video. So the next evening what happened, that Bond and Tanya and Darko Kerem, Tanya is Tatiana Romanova, they, all the three of them, they leave all board on Orient Express. Tatiana Romanova brought the Spectre machine with herself. However, she was acting to be in love with James Bond, but she really fell in love with James Bond. And the same thing happened on the side of James Bond. He also fell in love with her. Then there were certain MGB agents that they were able to spot, and Kerem bribed the conductor, and somehow those agents were thrown out of the train. But there is one agent that remained, and his name was Benz. Now the train was traveling through Greece, and they were Kerem, Bond, Tanya, they were spending time together on Orient Express. Hence, he sneaked into Kerem's cabin, and struggles happened. They tried to stab each other, and now both men are dead. And Bond was very shattered. I mean, Darko Kerem was dead. Now the train Orient Express stops in Belgrade, and there Bond and Tatiana Romanova meet Tempo, and he is one of Kerem's sons. And then they deliver the bad news that Kerem is dead. After all these incidents, Tatiana Romanova finally disclosed all the secrets and involvement of Smersh. Further, Bond calls M and he informs him that Kerem is dead, and M decides that he should continue traveling on the train, and M also agrees to send someone to meet them along the way, and M is the chief of MI6, the British Secret Service agency. Now Bond understood that Tatiana could be an undercover agent, or maybe she is an unconscious agent and she may not know the entire plan of Smersh. So now the train stops in Trieste, where Bond and Tatiana Romanova are greeted by a man whose body was like an athlete, and he had a thick book and a suitcase. Now Bond thought that this is the same man that is sent by M. Now this man claims that he is Captain Norman Nash and he is sent by M. Now Bond is initially suspicious about Nash. However, he decides to put his prejudices aside and begin to trust Nash. Now comes the climax. In the night, Nash wakes Bond up and all the treachery is revealed now. Bond got to know that he is Red Grant or Donovan Grant, and he is not Captain Nash. Fine. This Grant shoots Bond in the wrist with a .25 dum-dum bullet from the copy of that thick book, and that book was of War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, so which serves as a hidden gun. You would have seen those thick books that has a space inside it to keep a gun. In the same way, the gun was hidden in that book. Now Bond was little shocked because he was deceived by this man called Grant. Now Grant reveals to Bond that he is the chief executioner of Smersh, and Tanya is being used as a bait. Now this Red Grant reveals all the planning of Smersh, and he also reveals that the 16mm film that was shot behind that bedroom mirror was in his possession. And also he reveals that they already knew that British would never pass up the opportunity to recover a Spectre. So now Bond is all trapped. Now Grant plans to shoot Bond in the heart, as they will enter some simple tunnel. He will put that 16mm film recording in Tanya's handbag, so that it will look like that Tanya was blackmailing Bond because he had an affair with this girl and he was not marrying her. Or it will look like a suicide, that Bond, having realized that his career is now destroyed, he had killed himself, and also because the scandal will shock the Western world and it will embarrass the British intelligence community. Now, after listening to all this thing, Bond internally cursed himself for having fallen into the trap. And now, what happened that he asked Grant that he wanted to smoke a cigarette, uh, and Grant agrees to it, just like a last wish. Now, he pulls his gunmetal cigarette case from his pocket and he slips it into his own book he brought for the trip. And when the train enters the Simplon tunnel, Grant shoots Bond in the heart. But then Grant realizes that Bond had slipped that case into his jacket pocket, covering his heart, and he got protected from the gunshot and saved his life. But he lies on the floor pretending that he is dead. Now he somehow got a grip on a knife and he stabs Grant. And when Grant fell down, he took that gun and he repeatedly shoots him until he is dead. So now Red Grant is eliminated. So I have already told you that Red Grant disclosed the planning, and he also told him that after the killing he will go to Rosa Club in Paris. And now Bond thought that let's go to that room number and grab Rosa Club. So now Bond contacts Doximy Bureau, and that is headed by his old friend from Casino Royale. Remember that first novel of the James Bond series? That is, the name of that friend is Reen Matthews. And they together went to that hotel room to confront Rosa Club. Now they entered room 204 and finds an old woman sitting in that rocking chair knitting, and they thought that whether she is Rosa Club or not, and later on they realizes that yes, she is Rosa Club. Then struggles happen, and they were about to capture her, but this Club clicks a button on her shoe and then she releases a small poison laced blade, and she kicked Bond in the ankle with it. And then Matthias also realized that Bond has been poisoned, and then it's the end of the novel. I have uploaded the summary of this particular novel in 2 parts. You can check the playlist. I have created a designated playlist on this particular novel. I hope you have understood both the parts, and if there are any queries you can mention in the comment section. Now what you have to do, you just have to like this particular video and you have to share this with your friends. You have to subscribe the channel for more content. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.